Welcome back to A Celtic State of Mind. My name is Paul John Dykes, and this evening I'm joined by Kevin McCluskey for what could be a history-making game of football. It's at the National Stadium, Kevin. It's the Scottish Cup final. Celtic are heading towards not just the treble, but their their fifth, maybe seventh in a couple of years, their fifth in 7 years, a record-breaking eighth. It's an incredible run of domination that Celtic have had, but we've got 90 minutes of football to play. I'm taking it you've seen the teams.
I've seen the Celtic team, certainly. Yeah, I haven't actually looked for the Inverness team yet. I've seen the Celtic one. Pretty strong team. It's the one I would have went for, with the exception of I would probably have started Abada over Maeda, given how well he played last week. But, that's a toss of the coin over those two. Really strong team either way. And like you say, hopefully, at the end of that 90 minutes, it is indeed a world record 8th domestic treble. I mean, that's an insane stat when you think that we hadn't won one for 30 years or whatever it was until Martin O'Neill came in. And in that last 20, 25 years, it's just been utter domination. It's brilliant. But we don't take it for granted. We know it's going to be a tough 90 minutes, and still, they've got to go out and win the game. It's not won yet.
It is sensational. There is no two ways about it. I mean, someone put up a stat earlier in relation to from the club's formation, Kevin, right up to the second, the 1969 treble. And all that time we had won two. And then when you look at the fact that we are going for our fifth in 7 years, that is something that is very difficult to get your head around. There are going to be moments in the future at some point, hopefully in the distant future, where trophies are harder to come by. You might look back on this and think, wow, we were in the midst of that. And I'm really, really keen to get people involved in today's game. I know that you tune in from all over the globe, and you choose to listen to A Celtic State of Mind prior to kick-off, and we do appreciate it. We're going to start off with William O'Toole. You're commenting on the YouTube channel. Anyone else watching on there, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. Did Tam Cowan get you a ticket? He tried his hardest. That's all I'm saying. He tried his hardest, Kevin. And I think there's a lot to be said with the fact that not only couldn't I get a ticket for today's game, they brought up stag do's, and I told them that I'd had two weddings but no stag do. So now I'm coming away from that show thinking maybe it's because I've got no mates.
Well, I'm glad you're the one that said that, Paul. I didn't have to break
Everyone
the news
else was thinking it, Kev. Everyone else was thinking it, my friend. Giancarlo Curati, hail, Godspeed boys, ciao from Italy. Yes, we are all over the globe tuning in for the big game today. And Paddy quite rightly says, guys, I've got a ticket. I saw that last night on the socials from Shah from On the Volley podcast. So big shout out to Shah as well for that. Now, listen, Kev, we'll start off with the teams. We'll have a wee look at some of the considerations that Ange Postecoglou may have had. I'm not going to say dilemmas. And then we'll have also a look at some of the people who are missing and what that basically means for next season. Most of those people, those players who are not involved in today's fixture, may not be involved other than Aaron Moy, who's obviously injured. He's the only injury concern. But there's one or two others I think that we should speak about. The first one, actually, that I'll bring up, simply because I was with a St Johnstone fan this afternoon, in Stuart Cosgrove, and you know who he was raving about, Kev?
It'd be Montgomery, wouldn't it?
He was raving about him, right? Seriously.
One of my mates from back home, he's a Saints season ticket holder, and he's been raving about him all season. Every time I've spoken, it's been like, when he comes back, in his opinion, we're getting a proper player coming back in. So I'm looking forward to seeing the impact that he can make next season in the team.
No, we're sometimes too quick to write players off. And I think that Montgomery, when we did the loan, we looked at the loanees who were out. He was definitely one that you identified as coming back and having a career at Celtic. So hopefully that does work out. Not involved today for obvious reasons. So let's have a look at the teams then. Also this morning, as well as speaking to a St Johnstone and a Motherwell fan, I was speaking to two Inverness Cali fans, Kev. And I was interested to know, because it's not in a disrespectful way, but you just don't have the same intimate knowledge maybe of a club that you're not facing that often, okay? So we're coming up against Inverness. The scouting team at Celtic will have done all their due diligence. We would have gone and scouted this team. And they were asked, who are you looking for today to be the hero? It's still Billy Mackay. And I think to myself, wow, there's a guy who has been around for a long time. He's 34 years. He's still the one they're looking towards to be the hero today, Kev.
Yeah. Is it not Billy Mackay that won them the cup when they beat, was it Falkirk a few years ago?
It wasn't. They did tell me the name of the goal scorer. Any Inverness Cali fans out there will be thinking, how dare you not know that? Because it was probably the best moment of their lives. But
I was at that game for some bizarre reason. I used to do a bit of volunteer work for Supporters Direct Scotland many years ago, and I got invited along with them to the game.
So
I was
you're
actually there.
getting that
I
out
should
there.
know who scored the goal.
Was it Torrance? Was it something like Torrance or something like that?
I have no idea. I'm pretty sure he want to play for Aberdeen, whoever it was, but that doesn't help anything.
I'm too obsessed with Celtic, to be honest with you. I do remember the cup final in particular pretty well, Kev, because we were filming, believe it or not, at Hampden Stadium, the Neely Mockin documentary the day before. So we were wandering about and all the insignia and all that kind of stuff was up. So let's have a look at the Celtic side. As Kevin quite rightly said, there are no shocks in there. We wouldn't really expect there to be. We've got Joe Hart in goals with Alistair Johnston at right back, Greg Taylor at left back, Carl Starfelt and Iwata. Tomoko Iwata at centre half. We'll have a wee chat about that. The midfield is made up of Captain Callum McGregor with Rio Atati, Matt O'Reilly, and up top we have Jota, Daisen Maeda, and Kyogo Furuhashi. Now on the bench, Siegrist, another bit of a turnaround over the last few weeks. He hadn't been seen, he hadn't been seen for several months. He'd been back training full time since March after his injury. No sign of him until Scott Bain got a game at Easter Road. Now he's back. Haksabanovic, Abada, Turnbull, Bernaby, Forrest, Ralston, and Welsh. The last three, obviously, have been graduates from our youth academy. Forrest will be getting his testimonial match very soon as well. I agree with you. It's a very, very strong side. But let's talk about some of the selections. The first one, Kyogo. Leading up to this game, he was an injury doubt. I mean, he was spoken about by Ange. He's a player who scored 33 this season. He is a cup final big game player. Every cup final he's played in for Celtic, he's scored a brace, Kevin. It's brilliant to see him on there. It just fills you with that wee bit of extra confidence going into this game.
Yeah, it does. There's certain names that when you see them in the team sheet, you get that wee extra boost of confidence. Going into this game, we shouldn't really need it, to be fair. Not to underestimate Inverness in any way, shape or form. They're a side that finished sixth in the Championship this season. They haven't played a competitive game since the 5th of May. We should be really confident that we can go and win this game, regardless of who's playing for us, really. But to see Kyogo's name there, it just gives you that little extra boost. As you say, 33 goals this season, 4 goals in cup finals for us so far, a brace in his 2 that he's played. He's a big game player. And if there's any wee doubts that you've got about this game because of the form leading up to the Aberdeen match, seeing that you've got him up front should take all that away. It is, going back years, it's like when Larsson would have been out and we see him coming back in. You just get the boost, big game player. He'll turn it on. And if he is carrying a wee knock and we only get the first 45 or 60 minutes out of him, he's a good enough player that he can get us a couple of goals in that time that could win us the final before he needs to go off.
You know what it does as well? I love interviewing footballers and ex-players, Kev. It's something that I really enjoy doing. Try to get under the floorboards, as I call it. Not to go raking, but just to try and get under a few layers of what makes them tick. Get into the emotional aspect of football and what happens behind the scenes. Not always to try and get a funny, although they'll inevitably come. And some players like Jackie the other week there was talking about walking into that dressing room. And you're walking into a dressing room with the likes of Paul McStay and Peter Grant and Tom Boyd, Pat Bonner, and that type of player, he says. And, when you're sitting on that, the bench within the dressing room and you look to your left, you look to your right, it's almost as if, right, these guys have got this, and it fills you with confidence. I then heard Callum McGregor did one of the Ask Callum sessions on the Celtic YouTube page yesterday, two Acsom contributors got questions asked out, by the way, read out. I don't know if you saw that. And
I did. I saw Jerry was one. Who was the other one? Got a question?
Lloyd got a question. Yes. And
Callum, good for them.
He spoke about, maybe not being that natural leader, Kevin, but developing into that. And a lot of the time that is by being surrounded by people who are the natural leader types. So you're looking at that dressing room that, from that 11 that we've got on there, and you're looking in the defensive area of the park. And I think you've got leaders. I actually think you've got a leader in Joe Hart. I think you've got a leader in Johnson, by the way. You've got an international player in Taylor. I think Starfelt has shown some leadership qualities. Midfield, you've got McGregor. He's your man. You're going to look at him. But up top, Kyogo has got that talismanic presence about him. By the way, we spoke about the potential of him not making today's game, not making the starting lineup. And I would have been quite confident in Big O. I think that from what we've seen, I think we're talking 7 goals and 3 starts, a goal every 80 minutes. Even though the Hibs performance overall as a team was really poor, I think he came out of it with pass marks, and I think against Aberdeen he was brilliant as well when he came on. So I wouldn't have been overly concerned, but it does give you that wee bit extra edge, I think. What about the defence? Talk to me about the centre-half partnership. Going into this game, we asked everybody this week on the show if Kobayashi or Iwata was going to be matching up with Carl Starfelt. He's opted for Iwata. As Ange, we've just mentioned Ange for the first time, and we're 11 minutes into a broadcast. That is a record this week, by the way.
We've done well.
I know. I think the previous record this week was 11 seconds. So there you go. Ange has chosen Iwata. I agree with him. I think the reason behind that is Kobayashi. He's living on his nerves at the moment. If you think about him, 22 years of age, he's not actually had a standout game for us, I don't think, so far. And I think what Ange is doing here, he's not dropping him for a final because he never played against Aberdeen. He's just moving him out of the firing line. I thought Iwata against Aberdeen, he was solid, he was composed, nothing fancy, Kev. It was probably a 6 or a 7, but that's all you want today, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I share those opinions as well. When you consider Kobayashi, I think his first few games for us, he looked pretty decent. He's certainly composure in the ball and ability to pass it out from the back was a highlight. But in the last few games where he was being put under more pressure, having a bit more of a physical challenge put up against him, he did struggle. I would have probably been of the opinion at the time you keep him in and try and play him through it like we did with someone like Hatate. But some players react differently to different measures and different actions. So potentially for him, just taking him out the firing line, like Kev Graham said in a couple of the podcasts as well, take him out the firing line just now. I'm going to say give him a pre-season under Ange and then he'll come back a stronger player. Fingers crossed he gets the pre-season under Ange. But he probably does just need that wee bit extra time to bulk up physically, acclimatise to the Scottish game and come back a better player next season. Iwata being in today, pretty comfortable and happy with that.
Yeah,
I know he's played in defence before in Japan before he moved into midfield. At the weekend there against Aberdeen, you say solid enough performance. Didn't have much to do, but whatever he did have to do, he did it well. And you've got Starfelt alongside him, who for me is probably in the Callum McGregor band of leadership style. And I think he's a quiet leader. I think he's somebody that'll just he'll lead by example by going and winning the ball in the air. He'll try and probably talk Iwata through it a wee bit, but he'll not do anything over the top leadership wise. But I think he's a silent leader. Starfelt, confident with him in there. And yeah, I see Iwata being a centre back for us actually going forward. If, and it is a big if, Ange stays, I think that could be his role in the team.
I got a lot of messages yesterday, and I understand this, by the way, because it has been absolute overload. It's been Ange overload all week, right? Not just on Acsom, everywhere you go, social media, every news source, it's Ange. And, there's a lot of them, I think, in terms of news sources, and I mentioned this other day there, about 2 large, highly distributed news sources jumping on that bandwagon, knowing that if the 2 words Ange and Spurs are in a headline, you're going to get loads of clicks, right? And I don't, that's not the reason we've been talking about it. We're talking about it because we're concerned, because we don't want to lose him. We're trying to weigh up what is actually out there in terms of actual information, not just made up stuff or guessing or opinions. Opinions are great, by the way. I'd much rather read an opinion piece than, people putting stuff out there that has got no basis or substance whatsoever. And that's the reason we've spoken about him. And his name will come up during today's broadcast as well. But today, it's a showpiece game of the Scottish calendar, the Scottish football calendar. And we were talking earlier on, and I'm going to have to nick this. It wasn't mine, but I'm going to nick it. And we were talking about, cup final suits, the attire that you line up in. And sometimes, back in the day, it was something you would look out for because it became, what are they wearing? So you had the Liverpool team. Remember the Spice Boys? And they turned
Spice
up
Boys with the white suit.
you remember the white suits?
I remember that.
Oh, brilliant. With Redknapp and Ruddick and McManaman, Fowler, all they guys, and they're wearing these white suits. And I've got to say, maybe I'm a traditionalist, maybe I'm old-fashioned, maybe both. But I do like a suit. I like a tailored suit. I like football teams to turn up looking like that. I like gaffers to have the old badge embroidered onto the blazer and all that kind of stuff. It can still look really, really classy. But I also understand that the game's changed on, and more often than not, teams turn up in trackies. And the suggestion was today that there was a rumour that Celtic may turn up wearing double denim. Now, did you see any of them getting off the bus today, Kev? Has Jota been able to inspire them into a double denim get-up?
Oh, I haven't seen, but I really, really hope that's what happened. Double denim with the original Bumblebee kit on underneath. It's the only way.
I'll be amazed if Adidas don't bring out a double denim tracksuit. Honestly, I'll be amazed if that isn't one of the releases, of which we've had quite a few.
Just about everything else out of them in the last few months, so you never know.
It would sell though. This is it. At this moment in time, it would sell. Right, so here we go.
I've got an order in for 2.
Exactly. Well, Lawrence doesn't need one because he's already got one. Right back, Johnston. Left back, Taylor. Now, this is the thing about the fullbacks, because I think there was a point this season where we had 3 right backs, and Tony Ralston, Juranovic, and Johnston. I can't remember a time where we were so spoilt for choice in that position, Kev. Ever, as a Celtic fan, ever having that amount of quality in that position. And sometimes it feels, through the ages, through the years, that you're stronger on one side of defence than the other. You get that feeling a lot of the time. Oh, if we could only maybe match that quality of right back to the left back position. But I think when you look at that, there's a real balance there. You've got Taylor and Johnston. And I think the balance, for me, they're neck and neck in terms of their importance to this starting lineup.
Yeah, definitely. Again, before coming on, I'd had the old Celtic TV on, and they're showing some of the classic games for the past. And actually, just talking about the fullbacks, we're going back to having like Chris Morris and Anton Rogan in the centenary year, and that was the level we were at then. And yeah, for long enough, the fullback position has always been one of the most undervalued in any Celtic team, and usually in teams in the UK in general, I think. But for us, we've always undervalued it. Probably O'Neill, when he switched to having wing backs, was the first time we really kind of had any strength, but then it wasn't a proper fullback system we were playing. So now, probably, yeah, because Ange places such an importance on that role, and the fact that, you labour on it, but they play the inverted to come in and do that almost deep line midfield role as well. It's such an important role, and we need strong players in there. And the 2 that we've got just now, 2 of the best that we've had for long enough. Johnson's just come in, and we're speaking about leaders before. I think he's an absolute stick-on as a leader.
He's a born leader, isn't he?
He is. You see it every time he goes in for a tackle. It's 100% committed. He's coming out of it. He's doing the old Chris Ayer thing of celebrating winning a tackle, because it's a big moment. The big moments that he's going in winning the big tackles. And for me, he's got great leadership abilities. He would be up there as being like a vice captain just now. If McGregor's out, you'd have no issue giving Johnson the captaincy, and he's only been here for 6 months. And in that time, he's hopefully, come the end of the day, he's going to have more medals than a right back that plays in the other side of the city. So that's how good a player he is. Taylor as well.
But can he take a penalty?
Well, no, that's the point, eh? No, just sell him. Get rid of him if he can't have a penalty. Just get rid of him. That's that should be the number one criteria for your right back.
For a
He's
right
got to
back,
be able to hit a
absolutely.
penalty. Aye. But yeah, Taylor as well on the other side. He's been the most improved player in the squad in the last 2 years since Andy's come in. So vital to the team. And it's great to see, because you want to see the Scottish boys coming in and making a big impact in the team. And he has. And to go back to the very first point, Montgomery coming back in next season, you'd like to think he could challenge Taylor as well, and we might have two strong Scottish left backs going for that position. So, can I hope for the future there as well?
Yeah. I mean, when you move into that midfield, it's a conversation that John Hughes had a few weeks back on the Acsom Bulletin, whereby we were talking about the amount of options that we had in the midfield area. And obviously, Aaron Moy is out. He's out injured, unfortunately. And you're looking at that midfield now. I liked the look of Iwata in midfield, but obviously needs must. He steps back, and you look at that trio, and you wouldn't change it. And I mean, Hatate came back after his injury. He wasn't playing at his best. The rumour mill started, Kevin. Of course, his head's been turned, this, that, and the other. Ange allowed him to play through it. He engaged in what people do, I think, naturally in Ange's position, and it's man management, and he got real Hatate through that, to the point where when I seen him against Aberdeen, he was as sharp as I've ever seen him, actually. The way, he's got this ability, Hatate, where he can actually change the kind of motion and the weight of his opponent just by body movement without touching the ball. And he was doing a lot of that. And then before you know it, he's got a bit of space, but he got the space out of nothing, just the drop of a shoulder, a twist, a turn. And I think that Ange has managed it superbly well. O'Reilly, a lot of his performances, I feel, are going under the radar, but I think he's performing very well week on week. And of course, McGregor, who probably went through a sticky patch of 2 or 3 games where his passing was all over the place for some strange reason. But back to normal against Aberdeen. That's a strong midfield. That's the engine room. And when they work, the whole Celtic team works.
Yeah, I absolutely love the look of that midfield. It's got everything about it. Even O'Reilly has got that defensive side of his game now that he didn't have at the start of the season, because he had that 2 or 3 months playing in the number 6.
Aye, but does
Yes,
it have
young back,
a Celtic? Does it have a Celtic crest on it?
Aye. You put that on it and you can add another 60 quid to the price tag as well.
Exactly.
Aye. But yeah, back to that midfield. It's the strongest midfield we've got. But you can also mention, somebody like Aaron Moy coming back in next season when he's fit again isn't going to weaken that midfield if he comes in. Iwata moving up one also won't weaken it if he plays in there. There's a lot of options, but for me, that starting midfield has to be our strongest. So many strengths and qualities in there. The rumours you're talking about with Hatate earlier, excuse me, it's the same as we're getting now with Ange. There was zero substance behind them. Now, at some point, it might prove to be true that Hatate might leave in the summer. We don't know. Ange might go. But right now, nothing that you're actually reading has got any real substance behind it. It's all conjecture. It's all link the manager to a job, put a couple of lines together. It's clickbait. People are reading it. And it's changed my opinion of things from a week ago when you asked me if I thought he was going to stay and I was an adamant yes. You've then had a week of almost propaganda that he's away, which then changes your mindset a little bit. And you're leading into a cup final. And you just think, that's going to be a bit of a coincidence. Once again, we're going into a big game and it's the negative news story. The thing that's been forgotten is win today, and it's an 8th treble, and no one's ever done that. And that, in any other country in the world, is probably the leading headline going into this game. But we don't get it in Scotland. But anyway.
Scottish football team, you're right, they're about to break a world record. But I think you make a very good point there, because there was a period of time, some time ago now, I think, where that type of propaganda worked, because there was a wee box in everybody's house, and whatever that fed you at night time was the truth, and everybody in the nation would believe it. There was no getting away from it. There was obviously a few people who were awakened by other ideas, but now, Kevin, I think what you initially got was the advent of being able to find out for yourself what the true answer was to many things out there, and the propaganda machine that used to sit in the corner of every living room in the country was obsolete almost, and that was great for a while. But now the news sources have figured out how to manipulate your device that's in your pocket 24/7 as well. And like you say, even if you've got an opinion and you know how the media works, Kev, which is important, you know that this is how they work, yet 7 days of that drip, drip, drip effect, and before you know it, you start believing it. And to be honest with you, there will be an element of truth in it. I think the point I said this morning, not to labour the fact because we're 5 minutes away from kickoff, is I actually don't think that he's going to be Spurs' first choice. And there's nothing to suggest in a lot of the trusted sources down south that would say otherwise. So listen, let's enjoy the game today, and then we'll talk about it, I'm sure, after the match. Up top, there was a question mark, I guess, over Maeda for Abada. Abada looked very good in the first half, but it looked as though he might have pulled up against Aberdeen. He's still a young player. You know what you're getting with Maeda. Abada's great to have on the bench. You've also got Forrest on the bench as well. You're quite happy with the three with regards to the fact that Maeda could have dropped it for Abada. For me, it's a flip of a coin. Excuse me. And Jota, again, a man who loves the big occasion. I'm expecting our wings to be very busy, because what we tend to see is that someone down one side gets a lot more bang for his buck. Very rarely do we get both wings, firing on all cylinders, but I think that's going to be the case today, Kev.
Yeah. Normally the way we placed, as you say, it either comes down the left, which I think is where we favour most of our attacks coming down the left, but occasionally we'll put it to the right. We don't seem to have that balance of a 50-50 or 60-40 attacks coming down either side. But yeah, today, I mean, as I said, we're playing against a side that's mid-table in the league below us. We should have a lot of the ball. We should be looking at having 80% possession probably as a minimum in this game, which is not meant to be disrespectful to Inverness. But if you look at our team, there's so much quality in there that we really should be dominating the ball. If we are, the way that we play, McGregor kind of recycling the play from side to side, you'd like to think that guys like Jota, Maeda will find the space and will have a lot of the ball. So yeah, I'm looking that they'll be really heavily involved, and they're not even a step up. They're 2, 3, 4 levels above really what Inverness are used to playing against. So this is not this is not supposed to come across as in any way arrogant I count my chickens in this game. I expect that we'll go out and comfortably win. But the fact is, we still need to perform. We actually can't afford to go in with that mindset that we've got the game won already. And that Ange will have the players with that laser focus, because that's what's been in his mind all week, I think, is let's prepare for this game, let's go out and win the cup. And the players will be up for it. They'll know what they need to do.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody like Jota, he'll be desperate to go and put in a big performance in a cup final, because that's what he's all about. As you say, a big game player.
Yes, and you're right. Alistair Johnson spoke about that laser focus, Kev. The bench, we're covering all bases on that bench. You look at it beyond Seagrass, you've got fullbacks on both sides. The wings can be covered. We've got midfield options, we've got forward options. We even have the Haksabanovic number 10 option, should we need to call upon him as well. The starting lineup for Inverness: Ridgers, Duffy, Harper, Welsh, Dees, Devine, Carson, Mackay, Allardyce, Henderson and Shaw. That's how they will line up to face Celtic today, going for a world record treble. Thanks everybody for getting involved. You're having your barbecues, you're watching Celtic all over the world. And here we go. We've got Lisa Hughes. Time for another Rebel treble, setting standards once again. Absolutely. No surprises, says Peter. Caloyero in the starting lineup. Ominous that Kobayashi is not even on the bench. I think I agree with that. It is pretty ominous. What does it say about the future of him? I'm pretty sure, Kevin, that there will be one, maybe two players who have played their last game after today. It's one of the things that as a football club and as a fan base, we know it's just part of the cycle. We've been prepared for it now for a while. And when you look at the occasion that they might be bowing out in, you think to yourself, let's just go out, let's just enjoy it, get the win. The fans are going to enjoy it. The tifo's there, the celebrations after the match, the whole deal. It's 5:30 at night, kick-off. I'm buzzing about it. See, after the game, we'll start talking about Ange, I think. I think that's a deal that we will cut between you and I. In terms of prediction, 1972, 6-1, Celtic beat Hibs, biggest goal-scoring margin obviously we beat Hibs 6-3 in the League Cup before, so a higher scoring game. We beat another team 7-1, I think, in the League Cup. But 6-1, biggest score, no counting my chickens, but we've just beat the third best team in Scotland 5-0, and I hope we get that early goal. Thanks everybody for getting involved. Give us a big thumbs up on the YouTube. We'll see you at half time, and thank you to Kevin McCluskey for joining me on a Celtic